Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome to the first Mentoring Young Lawyers Summer Series 2025 session. Today with us for the session we have Minam Kareem, who is a LUMS alum from the batch of 2011. After doing his LLB from LUMS, he did his LLM from Michigan Law School in 2013-2014, and right now he's working as a senior associate in Roy Baker. Currently, for this session, he'll be talking about whether you should be doing an LLM or not after your LLB, and if yes, when's the ideal time. Over to you, Minam.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Minam Kareem, and I'll just give you a brief background of my personal experience. Starting from LUMS, I graduated in 2011, and I worked for 2 years at the law firm of Bandari Nakvi in Riyadh. And during my time there, I applied for my LLM. I chose to go to the University of Michigan Law School starting 2013, and I graduated in 2014. Once I came back, I did an internship of sorts with the Advocate General Punjab's office. After that, I worked at Access Law Chambers, a corporate consultancy company called Rashid Sadeh Corporate Advisory. And then for the longest part, I was with a law firm called FGE Ibrahim Hussain. And now I am working at the Lahore office of Via Barker Gillette. So that's a quick summary of my professional educational history. But before I begin, I would like to say that whether or not you do an LLM or pursue an LLM is based on several factors. The lecture I'm about to give is based on my personal experiences and my personal opinion. But obviously, you should not take that as the gospel truth. It's just one opinion that you can consider when deciding whether to do your LLM. Other people will have very different opinions from mine, or even might have the same opinion. But you ultimately need to make your own decision based on as much research and feedback as possible. So mine is just one opinion. So that being said, why do an LLM, a master's in law? In order to answer that question as effectively as one can, we first need to understand what an LLM is and what it is not, right? And the benefits that one can derive from a master's in law. An LLM is essentially an academic degree. It's not, unlike a bar at law, it is not a professional course. It is purely an academic degree. So that being said, let's talk about the benefits. There are two benefits to an LLM. One are direct benefits and one are indirect benefits. Now, the first and most obvious direct benefit for an LLM would be in the academic career. So if you want to be an academic or pursue a career in the legal academia, an LLM has a direct bearing on it because it is an academic degree. It is, as most of the time, for example, if you want to teach at LUMS, you probably would need to have at least a master's degree, and at least from someone at our age. Uh, there are exceptions, obviously. If you're a very big lawyer with a big name, you do not probably you'll get in. You will be a adjunct faculty by invitation. But let's just say you're not that well known a name. And if you want to be a permanent faculty member, an LLM more or less can be considered essential. And it can be a stepping stone to get a PhD, which is also only an academic degree. So that's the most obvious benefit. Now, let's move out of the legal academia area. As a professional lawyer, there are some direct benefits. One aspect of those is getting a job abroad. So an LLM from the jurisdiction from where you do study is going to help you. I would like to emphasize help, not guarantee, get you a job in that jurisdiction. I'll give you an example. In the US, if you want to practice in the US or at least get hired by a law firm over there, you need to have passed the um, bar exam. Uh, For that, you need to have taken certain courses in law school, and those can only be done through the LLM program. So you do the LLM program with a specific by taking on certain courses that you will have to need for the bar, and you pass the bar, and then you can apply for jobs over there, or at least become eligible to apply for a job in certain law firms. It helps because obviously sometimes law firms do require that you have a degree from a recognized university, or at least a university that specializes in their um, or at least the ones that they recognize and specialize in law from that jurisdiction. I know some people who have gotten jobs in the US based on LLM alone, and some who have got jobs in Canada based on LLMs that they've acquired from the US, and also LLMs from the Canadian universities. Same goes for UK-based universities. So there's one benefit of that. The others, I'll come to the cons as well. The other more direct, the direct benefit for LLM in local professions is that one, there are certain maybe government jobs or private institutions that take you that are looking for lawyers to be on their panel or in-house counsel, and they have a requirement that you have a master's in law, right? So that's one obvious benefit. There are ways around it, and people have found that, but that's one aspect for it. If you are taking part in a government tender, they usually require what we call legal experts to have a bar at law or at LLM, or at the very least, they give a high number of points to it, to the point that you become competitive in a field where there are mostly people who do not have a master's in law. The other benefit is that obviously if you graduate from a very good college, it can help you land interviews. Your resume looks impressive. There is a certain opinion that's formulated in the mind of an employer, especially certain kinds of employers uh, who are impressed by these degrees, and at least shows that you have a lot of training in from a good law school, right? So it helps you get through the door, right? Or at least gets you noticed amongst many. In a sea of applicants, yours would stand out because you have a master's in law. It helps you get through the door. So there's that benefit. Before I move on to the indirect benefits, I'd like to discuss the flip side of these benefits. These benefits for professional working lawyers in Pakistan, and these benefits that I've just mentioned, or at least sorry, ones that want to see work abroad. Now, in the US, there is a preference for students who have actually passed the JD program, not LLMs. And it's a very competitive market, and their main law degree is called Juris Doctor degree, which is a 3-year program, postgraduate program. So, given that it's so competitive, there is if you want to at least compete in that market, or at least get hired by anyone, you need to have done a JD. So there's no point of an LLM. There are exceptions. There are some exceptional lawyers who have only done an LLM up and they've managed to get jobs there, but those are an exception and not the rule. So there's a preference for JD students. Secondly, in regards to local qualifications, people who need to get higher marks in government tenders, they usually align themselves with people who have done masters, but they know that they are the ones really behind uh, a bid to take on a government project, and they get around it. So it's not something that is not a task that is insurmountable. Obviously, there is no way around impressing someone with your resume. For example, if you've done a LLM from one of the top 14 law schools in the US, it will create an impression. It will help you in your interview, but it does not guarantee you a job, and it does not guarantee you sustaining the job once you get it. In this, which comes to the main point that since the LLM is not a professional degree, it's not a requirement as such to practice law here, its benefits, it can only help you over the edge, but it cannot give you that much of a remarkable advantage over others over there in the market. So if you have, once you get a job, then will be having to learn on the job. Okay. And you will have to put in a lot of hard work, dedication, and show a lot of professionalism and maturity to sustain the job. The LLM can not do much over there. So it the benefits are not that, in my opinion, the direct benefits are not that great. It gives you an edge, but it does not give you a distinct advantage. But there are a lot of benefits to the LLM program. The biggest advantages to the LLM program are indirect. At least, and also one from a very good law school abroad. Now, I have only experienced an LLM from a US university, so my experiences are based on that. I believe the biggest benefits, indirect benefits, are personality development. While the actual material things you learn in the university over there are not going to be that relevant for your profession here in Pakistan, law schools over there focus on your critical legal thinking ability. What you will learn over there in terms of how to analyze a problem, how to respond to an issue once it's thrown in your face, your ability to organize your thoughts, and your ability to draft, it will improve considerably. I felt that what I was before my LLM and afterwards, in terms of my abilities as a lawyer, changed dramatically. And it definitely helped me in that regard. So that's the biggest benefit, which is indirect from an LLM program. Other than that, it helps you mature as a person because you will be interacting with people from different backgrounds, and you will become more world-wise. Once you learn how lawyers think from other countries, how they approach the law, what issues they face, and your personal network also grows. It becomes international, especially for someone who has had their entire education in Pakistan. So there's those benefits as well. So like I said, those are indirect benefits, but I believe they're the most priceless. That being said, that these are the benefits, both direct and indirect, for lawyers who do pursue an LLM. Then comes the cost. Okay, then is it worth it? Now, an LLM is an exception, be it in the UK or US or Canada or any English-speaking country. It is going to be a very expensive endeavor. And at the same time, it is going to take a year of your life away. So let's just say if you are already in a law firm and you're doing really well, to certainly put a break on your career development and go there, there's a lot of opportunity costs involved. So one has to ask the question, is it worth it in terms of the cost, both in terms of financial cost and the opportunity cost? Opportunity cost obviously depends on person to person and their situation. They might, not everyone immediately after graduating from undergraduate law school lands in a law firm job that they immediately like and start growing in. There sometimes people are very lucky, but not everyone. So it really that I mean, I can't comment on. The financial cost, a lot of people would say that is it worth going if you can't really afford it? Like, would you sell off land, assets, or incur a huge debt just to go? And my answer is a categorical no. You should only go because see, like all the benefits I said, they are not essential to survive in the legal market in Pakistan. They can help you to a certain extent, but they are not essential. There are many people I know from my batch of law school who are exceptionally successful. In fact, might be the most successful amongst all our batchmates, but have never done an LLM. And it shows that they just were very smart people, just hit the ground running, and they saw that maybe LLM was a distraction. Others saw it as a necessary tool for personal development. Now, which comes back to the cost. Only go for an LLM if either you're very well off and you won't feel the financial pinch. You and your family won't feel the financial pinch. Or two, you get a scholarship, a very generous scholarship that covers most, if not all, of your tuition fees, which are exponentially high and do not even cover the living costs, your travel costs, etc. So and it's going to be a very high number, and it has only gotten higher with time. So it's the given that the asking rate for an LLM is exceptionally high, one should not just do it as a necessity. They should only do it if they're able to afford it, or if they get a scholarship, or the opportunity presents itself. The second aspect that one needs to take is when should one go for it? Let's just say financial matters are not an issue. When should you go? And this ties into my earlier opportunity cost discussion. In my opinion, you should neither go immediately after you graduate from LUMS, and you should not go too far into your career or too much later in your life when you're already settled, either in your job or in your personal life. The reason why you shouldn't go immediately after graduation from LUMS is that you need to still figure out your place in the world. You need to know, where do I need to focus my attention? Like, do I need to focus on a particular area of law? Do I need to even want to become a lawyer? Do I want to become an academic? Right? And those questions are not answered so easily. So I would always recommend that give it a few years after graduation, enter the work field, and then make a decision to go for an LLM and where to go to an LLM and what to focus on in your LLM. You should not do it too far away from your graduation, because by that time you're either settled, and suddenly uprooting your life is going to be difficult, both in terms of professionally, because you probably maybe have your own law firm, you're a very senior member in a established law firm, and you might have a family to support, or who you can't just suddenly leave. in the middle, like that. So it has to be early on in your career, but give it a few years after you graduate. This is my, in a nutshell, my advice. What I can do, but yeah, I can now answer questions that anyone might have in regards to if there's any specific things that I might have left out. Obviously, like I said, this is a very huge field, and there are a lot of people have different scenarios to deal with. Everyone has their own experiences and situations to deal with when it comes to making this big decision. Mine is just one opinion of many that you should consider before making the decision to go for an LLM. So, but if I'm open to asking answering any questions that anyone might have in this regard.
So I have a follow-up question. You said that as we shouldn't do an LLM immediately after graduating, but wait for a few years. So how can a student, like especially a refresh graduate, decided, okay, these are the how many years I should ideally be looking, and after that, even if I decide for LLM, how do they weigh the cost? So it's not just the financial cost, it's also the market cost. Because once you'll be doing your LLM, you'll be having a break as a litigator. So how
Hmm.
do they evaluate all of those aspects? And then when making the final decision that okay, this is the university in which I have to do my LLM, this is the area in which I have to specialize. How do they evaluate all those aspects as well?
Okay, so there is no fixed answer for that, and like I said, everyone will have their own timelines to go. Some people might take a year, some people might take 5 years. I took 2 years, and I I wanted to do an LLM because I felt like one, I had gained the discipline I needed to do an LLM. So in LUMS, I felt like I did not have, at least now I realize, the way we studied at LUMS, the way we did assignments in LUMS, the way we wrote in LUMS, the way we did research in LUMS, I was not ready for an LLM. A lot of my colleagues did their LLM immediately afterwards, and they're fine. But I'm speaking from my personal experience. When I worked for 2 years at Bandari Riyaz, they were notorious slave drivers, and they made me work long hours, really focused on my drafting skills. You know, they would scrutinize me very carefully over the smallest of typos or misplaced sentences. And they inculcated in me a discipline to work hard and long hours, which I did not, I believe I did not have at LUMS. At LUMS, there was, for the lack of a better word, a very casual approach to studies that I do not think would have helped let me survive in an LLM program. An LLM program was exceptionally intense. I was up till 1 a.m. every day studying, and then I was really burning every ounce of oil I had in my body to keep up with students. It's not like I was doing much better than my contemporaries, especially American students, but I was doing everything I could to just keep up with them. And I believe that I did not have that discipline fresh out of films. I believe that came with me working in a professional setting, especially one where they really discipline you. The reason I wanted to go for the LLM at that point is because I knew I wouldn't want to work at BNR forever, or at least at that law firm. So I had decided I wanted to move on. I felt like 2 years was long enough. I because I knew that it's not like I had a personal opportunity cost if I left at that moment in time. I knew I would have joined a different firm anyways. So I realized I had learned everything I needed from them, and now I wanted to move on. So that's why I chose to go at that particular point in time. I felt like okay, I'm not learning that much more. I think I've plateaued in terms of growth. Now I want to move on to something else. It's either an LLM or a different law firm, right? So that's why I chose to do an LLM at that period of time. I know some people, for example, early on in their careers, they just gone straight into areas such as arbitration or energy law or finance law, and then they did LLMs based on that. Sometimes the firms encourage them to do that. Okay, you know what? You're showing a lot of promise. We'll wait for you. We'll hold your position for you. You do an LLM in this particular area of law, and we have a space waiting for you when you come back. There's that option, and there's that scenario as well. But how long it takes to reach that position, it depends on person to person. Uh, but still, uh, obviously, time is relative. I mean, for some people, 1 year is too early, and some people 5 years is sorry, 1 year is too late, and for some people 5 years is too early. But roughly speaking, around that time, the first few years of your postgraduate life, that's when you should do your LLM, because the longer you stay in your professional life, the more deeper you'll be uh, entrenched, and you won't be able to move that easily without a greater cost. So that's why I'd say early on in your career, but obviously I cannot give a specific timeline. That will depend on person to person.
Thank you. Now we have a question from Heather. He has written, I have completed my bar at law and a top up LLM. I have practiced at a top tier litigation firm for 1.5 years, but was disappointed due to how low pay and poor work conditions were. Now I'm applying to switch a career in corporate law. If I pursue an LLM in USA, what are the chances of getting a job there? Is it better to do an LLM in the USA or Canada in terms of job prospects?
Okay, so like I said, it's not, there are a lot of factors to be involved, but an LLM in the, if I had to make a one or the other thing decision, I would not say an LLM in the US would be helpful, because like I said, over there they need JDs. They prefer JDs. Okay, and if you already have an exceptional resume, it's just an LLM would just be the cherry on top. But they need JDs. It's been a very long time since I've personally heard, maybe I'm wrong, I've heard of anyone who's gotten a job in the US on the basis of an LLM alone, especially a Pakistani. So you'll have to do a JD. So I would not recommend doing it from the US. Canada is different. Uh, Canada, you still have to take their local courses and pass their local bar exam to get a license there. So you still have to study over there. But it's not that they will require you to do their own law degree over there before you can get a job there. So in between Canada and the US, that's my preference. Then there's the current events, right? Right now, there are no student visas being processed by the US. I don't know if President Trump was going to change his decision, but right now the situation in the US is exceptionally bleak, both as a student who wants to apply for university over there, and as a potential job applicant. Canada right now is relatively much more stable, but what I've heard over there is that the job market is also quite saturated. So it's going to be very competitive. But if you want to give it a shot, you can, but that's where the cost comes in. It's not going to guarantee you a job over there. It's still an extremely uphill task. And if anything, it makes your, for example, if your chances initially were 20%, then now your chances will be 22% if you have an LLM. It gives you a slight advantage, but it does not guarantee it. Obviously, you probably need an LLM to, from or at least a degree from a local university in Canada, just to uh, get at least a job interview, and them to at least say, okay, you know what, you need to have some sort of degree from a university that we recognize in order for us to even consider hiring you. Uh, but yeah, it's a technical thing, but you will not get that much of an advantage um, with an LLM from Canada or to get a job there. In terms of, I know that's not your question, but an LLM will not improve your pay scale over here. So it's not like, okay, I have an LLM, therefore the pay I can be expected to get in a Pakistani law firm would be higher. Law firms reward loyalty, work, and proven work. The resume only helps you get through the door for an interview only by sticking with a law firm for long enough and showing that you're indispensable, and then negotiating from a position of strength, you get a higher salary. And LLM alone will not increase your pay scale, at least in Pakistan.
Thank you. Now we have a question from Daud Sultan. He's asking, what's the advice on bar at law from UK? I've talked to a number of barristers and they claim that the advocacy skills they learn during their time in Lincoln's Inn helps them till they will researching or arguing in front of higher courts. What's your say on it?
So at one point in time, uh, maybe in the last century, the name barrister had a lot of weight attached to it, and it gave you an automatic reputational boost. Now it does not. Um, First of all, there's a lot of barristers, and at the end of the day, two things matter: your client's trust in you and the judge's respect for you. Both of them do not change on you being a barrister. In terms of argumentative skills that you learn over there, one, in an LLM program, you learn those as well, but you can't be taught argumentation on an institutional or an educational level, or at least an educational institutional level. These are things you learn on the job, especially in Pakistani courts. You could, first of all, it's not to sound too cynical, but Pakistani courts are a beast which operates by no rules. There's a saying, "Know thy judge." Uh, so over here, it's how you communicate with that judge, how you level with them. A lot of our judges do not go by the rule book. They're very emotional and very and they're not consistent. So one judge will have a different approach to a certain problem, and the others will have a different. Um, so one has to play it by the ear. There is no bar course that can teach you that. How to navigate a Pakistani court, you will have to learn that on the job. And by visiting the courts regularly and just seeing how it's done, right? And your argumentation skills will be developed based on which law firm you work with, right? Um, and yeah, so no bar course will teach you that. There are education, any higher level education will, even master's in law will teach you argumentative skills, how to think on the spot, how to think of answers on the spot. But at the end of the day, it's good preparation and what you've learned on the job that make you a better lawyer. No bar course will ever teach you that, especially when it comes to dealing with our courts.
Thank you, madam. Now we have a last question from Mariam. She is asking that if one decides not to do an LLM, how can the career progress and how can we establish our authority in the area? And if you can share any tips for that. In addition, she has written, I understand that litigation might not require it, but what would you say for corporate law and other specializations?
So, like I said, an LLM will probably not teach you or at least give you any direct knowledge or material knowledge when it comes to the area of law. In some cases, might be corporate and financing. There might be some things that you can apply that you learn over there in a law school that you can apply over here, but everything is learned on the job. You can, so whenever you join a law firm, you have to, and if it's an area of law that you've never done, just working hard and being having that curiosity to learn and willingness to learn, that's how you learn. You will make mistakes, But if you do one big assignment with a senior a good senior who's basically open to teaching you and taking you along with him or her, you will learn a lot. It's everything, all material information that I've learned or skills that I've learned as a lawyer, they have been on the job. Doing one assignment after the other, you learn a lot. So you can obviously in certain law firms they appreciate if you do your own homework as well. They give you a particular type of assignment or an area of law that not many people are familiar with. Then you go home, you read up on books on that area. You understand the kind of client you have, the kind of business they do, and the kind of issues that they face, and just generally the area of law that you'll be dealing with. So that's the only way to go about it. In fact, you do not need an LLM for that. Uh, you will learn everything on the job as you go. And there is um, no fixed formula for no fixed timeline, but everything you will learn on the job. So you have to be very careful about which law firm you decide to join, which is a different topic, but I am happy to address it right now. Okay, for youngsters, it's very important you join the ideal law firm. And the ideal law firm is one which teaches you, which has two qualities that not all law firms have. One is where you will learn, where they're very good mentors. And number two, where they have a very good professional ethic. Now, most of the times it happens that there are a lot of law firms where they teach you a lot, but they don't teach you the right things. And then there are law firms which have very good professional ethic and are very professional in the way they operate, but do not teach you anything, and they have no time to teach you. So it's a difficult decision, but that's why people should spend as much time on due diligence for researching law firms to go to. And if you find the right combination, go there. And you will learn more over there than any university can ever teach you.
Thank you, Vinay, for the lovely session. I'm sure students would have learned a lot from you, and thank you for addressing their questions. I guess no other student has any question. In case they have, just guys, please raise your hand right now. Otherwise, we'll end the session. Okay, so we have a question from Hassam. He's written that how difficult it is to get a scholarship. Also, do the universities prefer lawyers with some practical experience over fresh graduates, or or this difference does not matter a lot?
It does matter. Uh, so professional experience definitely is an aid. So if you have not that great a resume coming out of undergrad, a professional experience definitely will help you. I believe it helped me. It The way I wrote my essay, the way I structured my resume, and the way I presented myself. I think it really helped me. Obviously, the more professional accomplishments you have, it will help you. Definitely, it'll help you as opposed to having no professional experience. In fact, I know this goes against every advice, what I've said so far. In my LLM program, I was one of the youngest, if not the youngest. And this is the case for most LLM programs in the US. Most, if not all, people are in their mid 30s and mid 30s to late 30s. I went there in my mid 20s, and I was one of the youngest people there. As is the case for almost all Pakistanis I know, sorry, all fellow LUMS alumni who I know, they all went in their mid 20s and they were the youngest people there. But some had professional experience behind them, and some were coming straight out of coming out of LUMS without any professional work experience. It helps if, for example, if you're at the top of your class in LUMS, you have a lot of professional accomplishments, and it really helps if you already have all that and you probably can apply straight away. I still think you should wait because then you should be applying for the right thing in your LM or going to the right university. So I would still wait. I know some people who didn't have a great academic grades in LUMS or even in other law schools. And then suddenly they did something remarkable afterwards. Most of the time it was clerkships at the Supreme Court. And just it happened that a guy with basically 2-1 or 2-2 in the University of London program happened to clerk with the Chief Justice of Pakistan, and he wrote him a glowing recommendation. And he also mentioned, oh, I worked on some of the most uh, headline-making cases of the day in Pakistan. Suddenly, his resume looked amazing, and he got into some of the top universities in the US. Obviously, I'm just giving one extreme example, but it definitely helps if you have professional experience. In regards to your first question, scholarship is, they say that a lot of universities that we are needs blind. So basically, if you've gotten the admission, uh, if you can show that, I don't have the financial means to go there, then they will try and cover you. You still need to play. They will not give it to anyone that they have given admission to. Obviously, the more exceptional you are, the more they're keen to uh, give scholarship to, right? And you have to play it smart in terms of what you can afford or you cannot afford, right? So you'll have to show that, okay, you could be from a very upper class background in Pakistan, but still can't technically afford it. So what you can do, you can give them a reasonable expectation that, okay, you know what, don't cover 100%, but cover a significant portion, and you do the maths very carefully that, look, this is my family's finances, we're well off, but we can't cover all of it. What we can do is cover this much. And you give a very honest approach to it. You don't give a blanket statement, okay, oh, I can't afford it, give me everything. Or I can't afford it, just give me 70%. You back it up with a lot of math and hard evidence, and then they are more likely to take you seriously. So yeah, that's the way of going about it. But also, it really helps if you weren't on the waiting list and they gave you admission right away. The US has been in the past very generous with scholarships, not so much the UK. I don't know much about Canada. I think they might be, but I'm not too sure. But they do give scholarships as well. I haven't, and the UK has certain scholarships like the Chevening scholarship, but those are not very, I think, university specific, right? So but in the UK is a little bit more conservative when it comes to giving funding for students. I think that's more in the US and Canada, some Scandinavian countries as well, maybe Australia, but I'm not too sure about Australia. But unfortunately, the biggest, most generous universities in terms of giving scholarships are the US ones, and right now, like I said, it doesn't look like a very good option. Um, no, to the extent of my knowledge, there is no separate criteria for scholarships and admissions, right? In terms of academic qualification. So if there's a requirement for you to apply for an LLM in a particular university, they will not put an additional academic requirement uh, or a qualification requirement for your scholarship, to the extent of my knowledge. I think scholarships are given on the basis of your financial needs and not based on if you uh, pass a certain test or not, to the extent of my knowledge in regards to US universities. I don't know the case for the UK and Canada, but in the US universities, as far as I know, that's not a requirement to pass a GRE exam. Any other questions?
Thank you, Rina. We have a question from Amaria Batul, which is a follow-up that do we need to take a GRE exam to get the scholarship in LLM or not?
That's what I just answered right now.
Super. Then these are all the questions that we had so far. If anyone else has any question, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll end the session. Perfect.
Generally, if
Thank
you
you.
guys have any questions in regards to starting your career or once you come out of law school, what you should do, you can ask that as well.
Perfect. So thank you, Madam, for taking out time today and guiding our students. And in case you have open to any other questions, do let us know, and then we'll forward the students' questions, which can later on on the topic, and we'll forward them to you. Otherwise, they can always see the recording. And thank you
Okay.
everyone for joining in the session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.